Every experience is part of the whole. Welcome to Book by Source. I am your speaker, Charlie, and today we are exploring the idea that everything has purpose, everything is part of the whole. And I know that this may not sit well with everyone, but to those who tune in, welcome. Stay with me a while. So, when I say that everything is part of the whole, what I am speaking to is a belief that we are all on a journey. I believe that we are all on a journey from source back to source. And during that journey from source back to source, a lot happens in the in between. And in that in between is all purposeful, whether we see it in the moment or not. So, just so y'all know, I don't have notes. So this is literally me just flowing through. And so I'm going to try and hope that as the information is channeled through me, that it comes in a sequence that makes sense. Um, so first off, like I said, I believe that everything is part of the whole, which means that no matter what happens, is part of a bigger picture. It is a continuation of a story. And so with that being said, I believe that we come into this world, and I believe that we come into this world with purpose. And, you know, I've wondered for a long time, like, what are we here for? Like, what are we doing and why? I just cannot believe that we are just here to pay bills and that's it. Like, oh, we literally come alive to be babies, to become adults, to pay bills, to work, whatever, 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 to hopefully retire and then die. Huh? Absolutely not. I believe that we are here with a purpose and that purpose is expressed differently for each one of us. And that though this world is made up and has convinced us that, oh, you're here, you have to work, that work is a must and it has to look a certain way, that is not true. It is made up. Some human decided that they can make they can convince the rest of us of how the world works, and they have. They've conditioned us to believe that life has to be a certain way, that to be human looks a certain way. But that is not a truth. I believe as humans we are evolving, and every generation there seems to be some evolution of sorts, right? Some shift in how we perceive our humanity, some idea of how is, right? Like, we didn't always have the internet, we didn't always have social media in the way we have it now. And now our whole lives are different because of social media, because we get to see, all the possibilities of what it means to be human. We get to see the different cultures and how each culture has their own belief and idea and perspective about what it means to be human, about what to value, what to care about, how to um connect as family, how to connect as community. Every culture has their own thing going on. A lot of them has their own language, their own identity of what it means to be human, their own values behind it. And I believe all of that is purposeful because each of us have a different purpose. We are here to share some kind of message with the collective, and for each of us it will be different. um I knew since I was a young uh, uh a teenager, really, that my life wasn't about me, that everything I was going through and everything I was experiencing was for me to learn in order to share with others some truth. I remember spirit, like hearing spirit say to me, this isn't about you, you aren't being punished, this is bigger than you. I had no idea what that meant. But as I journey on and I realize different things about life and different things about what it means to be human, and I people watch and I know how to pick up on energetic patterns, I've realized that, like, a lot of us are vibrating at the same frequency and it just expresses different. And then I also realized that a lot of things that we say are good or bad is actually neither. It just depends on who's perceiving it. So I've come to realize, at least at this point in my life, that everything has a purpose. And even those moments where we feel like this is bad, this shouldn't be happening, you made a poor choice. Is it true? Not necessarily. It's a truth, but it's not absolute and it's not the only one and it's not complete. You know, every time something happens, we judge that moment, but we tend to forget that that moment is part of something bigger. Just because something looks like it's bad or wrong or didn't go as expected doesn't mean it's bad at all. It just means that it did not live up to what you believe should happen. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily wrong or is necessarily out of place. It can, that very circumstance that you think is horrible or bad or not the best can be the very circumstance that puts you in a place that propels you to something great, something unexpected, something that you couldn't even have imagined. But we don't know. I had a mentor that said to me, you know, we judge things by the moment, but how do we know? And she was like, you know, someone breaks their leg and you're like, oh, that's bad. They broke their leg. Now they can't do this. Now they can do that. But you don't really know. You have no idea what that broken leg is leading to. What if that broken leg is the very thing that keeps them home and then something happens at their job where people, like when a building collapsed or something like that. And had it not been for that broken leg, they would more than likely have been at the job that day. You don't know. You have no idea what a situation or circumstance is preparing you for. You know, that divorce, that child that you didn't plan to have. You have no idea the purpose of it. I was like maybe 15 and my mom said, she just like yelled out of nowhere, you were meant to be an abortion. Okay. Like, it doesn't matter what was meant. It doesn't matter how sad she was about it. I was meant to be here in this lifetime. And the fact that she felt like I was meant to be an abortion and then she didn't have the opportunity to raise me says so much. I was never meant to be hers. And I think there's something so beautiful about that. That even when you think that you are in control of something, that the universe, life, source has another way. You may think that something does not belong, but the fact that it exists means that it belongs. It means that it has purpose. It exists because it's meant to, even if you don't understand why. And so when I say that everything has purpose, my hope is to remind us that there are things bigger than this moment. There are things bigger than that circumstance. And we are part of something bigger than what we imagine. I believe that we all play a part in the evolution of humanity and that we are here to have a well-lived life. And what a well-lived life is for you and what a well-lived life is for me is not, may not look the same. You know, like we all have a different idea or different beliefs about what is right, what is wrong, depending on our cultures, the communities we're a part of, the conditioning we have, and whatever we learn from our own lessons along this life journey. We will decide what we believe to be true or not true about life. I am someone who really has gotten to a place where everything is true. You, whatever you believe about life is true, whatever I believe about life is true. I believe that everything can exist. In your reality, what is true is true. In my reality, what is true is true. And because the reality to me is like none of us will ever know the absolute truth, but each of us hold a part of the truth. You know, before my what we'll call the dark night of the soul, I didn't even know that there was a spiritual community out there. Like, there was a world of people who awakened, who knew things about life, who was questioning life, who was connecting with energies and connecting with spirit, um, who was just doing all these things, right? Was into tarot and oracle cards and reading energy and all these things. But just because I didn't know they existed doesn't mean that they're not real. And what made me, I guess, kind of sort of like believe in their gifts and their abilities is the fact that I knew who I was. I've always known I could read energy. It's always been a part of who I am. Like, I used to say when I was younger that, like, I used to pray not to take advantage. I was 21 years old, and I remember praying to God saying, "Please don't let me take advantage of what I know." And at that time, I just knew things about people. Specifically, I knew people pain points. I knew their insecurities. I knew what could make them tick. And I could see where their anger was coming from, where their embarrassment was coming from. And so I just always ask God, like, don't let me take advantage of this. Because you can hurt people, right, when they're not ready to hear certain things. And they may think that you're attacking them, right? And I knew that if I said certain things that people were trying to hide, if I said it out loud, there's so many ways that situation could have went. I grew up in New York City. Okay? So there's so many ways that the situation could have went. And so because I was a person who knew that they read energy, even though I didn't have the words for it, when I got into the spiritual community and I see people doing all these things and had all these gifts, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not the only person having these experiences. Because at first I thought that everybody was like me, like everybody was magical. Um, I thought I was so magical because I could just read energy. Like, it was just natural. Like, I never not read it. I never lived a life where I didn't read energy. So it was something that was always on for me. And so I used to think I was so magical. And then, so I didn't think everybody could do it. But once I got into the spiritual community, I realized everybody had different gifts and different abilities. And I say that to say this: we all come into this world with whatever we need within us to navigate this world. And I believe that each of our souls have a different mission, right? It has different lessons to learn. So the things that I'm here to explore or understand, you may or may not have those same or similar missions, right? Like, a lot of times I talk to people, especially when it comes to, their evolution, and they say things like, I can't wait to get to where you are, or I look forward to the point where I'm so detached like you are. And what I remind them is that you may never have this experience, and not because it can't happen for you, but you don't know if that's part of your soul's journey. You know, when people read my astrology chart to me and the things they say, I'm like, it makes sense why I am who I am. Like, it really just confirms a lot of time what I say about myself. And I'm like, oh, I'm just designed this way. I'm just designed to be this way. And I love that for me. But everyone has their own design. You know what I mean? Your design is purposeful for your purpose. So funny because I'm like, how did we get here? But like I told y'all, it just be flowing, okay? Um, uh, we get what we get. Um, but each of us have our own purpose. And so even if a circumstance looks like it's not working on your behalf or it looks dreadful, a lot of times we think that only because of what we believe life should be. I think it's so interesting that people who are diagnosed with different mental diseases, um, we automatically say it's not normal. And I think it's the funniest thing in the world because I'm like, who are you? Who is any of us to say that that's not what a human is meant to be? The only reason why we say that is because someone told us that humanity has to be a certain way. that to be normal, you have to act like A, B, C, and D. But that's just someone else's perception of what it means to be human. That does not make it facts. And so I believe that however you are designed is how you're meant to be. Period. It doesn't matter what I think normal is. I believe that you are designed the way you are meant to be designed for your sole purpose. It does not matter what I think normal is. And I think it's so interesting how so many of us realize that, like, this idea of what's normal and not normal. And when you look at research, especially from the past, like, you have to think about who the participants were in that research study and who you're being compared against and what their environments were like. We have to consider nature and nurture. But a lot of times we try to ignore that and skip that and be like, oh, well, you should be this way because KJ is this way. Johnny is this way. That's what normal is. And it's like, no, that is not how that works. But we have been so convinced that that's the truth. And so we continue to affirm that. We continue to confirm it, and we continue to live from that space like this is what normal is. And so a lot of times when I'm talking to friends, especially those who have been diagnosed with different things, I'm always reminding them that, please don't fight the experience you're having, because you're only fighting it because the world told you that that is not normal. But it had no one told you that it's not normal, you would just be accepting it. The discomfort in it all. A lot of times it is uncomfortable because you're fighting it. You're resisting it. But if you notice that if you don't resist your thoughts, if you don't resist the experience, it just moves on. It moves on like it never happened, because that is part of the process. That is part of the flow. But a lot of times the reason why people feel like they're suffering is because they're fighting against what is. They're fighting their natural flow. And so they're convincing themselves like, it's not supposed to be this way. This is not normal. But it is normal. It's your normal. But because someone else outside of you told you that it's not normal, you believe it's not normal. But no, this is also part of your purpose. This is part of your flow. This is part of your design. And I know for some people it may feel like it sucks. I get it. I'm not arguing and I'm not discounting your experience. But what I am saying is that don't let this world tell you that what you're experiencing should not be experienced. Because if it should not be experienced, you wouldn't be experiencing it. But the fact that you are experiencing means that it's meant to be experienced. It just is what it is. And so everything has purpose. Even those moments that we are trying to resist, we're trying to push away, we're saying shouldn't be happening. The reason why it should be happening is because it's happening. If it was not meant to happen, it wouldn't happen. A lot of times these emotions that you're feeling, these sensations that you're having, they are spontaneous. So you're not making them happen. They are spontaneously coming to you for whatever frequency is within your energetic field. It's pulling it in. It's receptive to it. But in the same way you receive it, it's the same way you can let it go. Don't engage with it. Don't keep pouring into it. And yes, easier said than done. That's why it's all a practice. But the message in this video, the whole point of all of this is that everything is purposeful. And I know it can be exhausting. It could be overwhelming. It could be annoying. I know. I have been there too. I still go there sometimes. But it's also a part of your process. It's also a part of your experience. And the fact that you're having that experience is purposeful. Now, whether it awakens something for you, whether it's guiding you into something else, whether it's showing you how far you've come, whether it's guiding you to leave a circumstance or a situation you're in, whether it's pressuring you to make some choice, I don't know. But there is purpose in your experience. Maybe you're teaching someone else something. Maybe your existence is a light for someone else, is a reminder for someone else, is a lesson for someone else. I don't know. But the whole point is that it's purposeful, and you won't always know the purpose in the moment. But that doesn't mean that it's not purposeful. That doesn't mean that it's not pouring into something bigger. And the reality is that no matter what you think about the circumstance, it has purpose. There has been times where I probably thought that things shouldn't be happening the way it did, but here we are. You know what I mean? You learn, you live through it. And when you live through it, you realize it taught you something. It showed you a way. I am who I am today because of everything I've been through. I am not afraid of life anymore because I have had to face so many moments of fear to the point where I realize only two things going to happen. I'm going to live through it or I'm going to die. And either way, I can handle it. And I know that there's things worse than death. I say that often. But I also know that I can get through anything. And that even if I don't feel like I have the resources, the moment that I need the resources, they will show up. You know, but it's all about trusting the unfolding. And for my soul journey, everything I've been through led me here to the point where I trust the unfolding, where I believe that everything has a purpose, where I know that everything has a purpose, to where I know who I am at my core, to understanding that no matter what the circumstance look like, the truth of who I am does not change. I am whole, I am enough, and I have everything I need in me. And anything I need along the way externally will come exactly when I need it. But I got here through going through moments where this shouldn't be this way. Why is this happening to me? Why does this hurt so bad? And life kept meeting me with answers. That you're okay. This is okay. This is part of the whole. You only believe this because you've been told. But what is your actual truth? What do you feel within your body? Do you feel peace? Is it actually that you should be afraid, or is your mind just telling you that? What does it feel like inside of you? Not just what your thoughts are doing. What does it actually feel like? And then when you recognize that a lot of your thoughts are rooted in fear, because a lot of us, when we are raised to be afraid. Fear this, fear that. If you don't go to school, if you don't go to college, then you won't be successful, right? And then you have to understand, what is even success? Success according to who? So much of what we've been programmed with, we've been conditioned with, what we've been told about our human experience is actually not ours. It's just someone else's idea of what the truth is. But what if you actually don't resonate with that truth? A lot of times we are chasing a life that was never ours to chase, never ours to desire. But we were taught this. We were told that this is how it has to be. We were told that this is what it means to be human. We were told this is what it means to be a woman. This is what a woman acts like. This is what a woman does. A woman can't wear this. A woman can't date like that. A woman can't have sex outside of wedlock, right? We're told all these things. And in my opinion, it's all about control. It's all about trying to tell someone that if you don't live life this way, you should feel ashamed. You should feel guilty. You should feel less than. But the truth is, none of that is facts. That is just someone else's idea of what it means to be human. But you get to decide for yourself, what does it mean to be human? What does humanity feel like and look like for you? I was talking to a friend and she was talking about conscious parenting. And I was like, what is so interesting about all this? I wonder how many people actually ask themselves, what would parenting look like for me? Because they have so many people outside of them telling them what a parent should do, how a parent should act. And it's just like, okay, but what does it feel like for you? I'm someone who grew up in foster care, right? So my idea of family and parenting is very different than most people. But that experience I had as a foster child, as someone who was raised by community, makes me look at life a lot different than someone who was raised by biological family. I don't see the world the same. You know, I'm not attached to um, labels in the same way most people are, right? This idea that you only get one mom, this idea you only get one dad, this idea that, you know, family is all you have, right? Like, that's not a world I lived in. That's not my truth. That's not what I experienced. So for me, that is not a truth. But I understand the concept of it. And so for all of us, the experiences we have will play a big part in the life we live and how we perceive life. And so even if our circumstances don't look the same and we don't have the same beliefs, doesn't mean that any of it is wrong. And the life you are experiencing, the life you live, the things you experience is part of a bigger picture. It all has purpose. It's all leading you somewhere. And I personally believe that it's part of your soul's purpose. And because your soul's purpose is different from my soul's purpose, I'm looking at the light. Your soul purpose is different from my soul purpose. Your experiences may be a lot different from mine. That does not make it right or wrong. It just is. And the same thing with your journey. Everything has purpose. I want to invite you to slow down. Start paying attention. When you are judging what's happening, ask yourself, is this absolutely true? And if it's not, consider it, but let it go. Don't tie too hard to it. Don't grip at it and be like, this is the truth of it. Let it go and see what else unfolds, because your questions for today may be answered tomorrow. Don't rush the journey. Don't rush the process. It will all make sense. You just have to let it go. Don't fight what is. Let life happen. Life is happening for you. Life is happening for you because you have no idea why that experience is coming into your awareness. It may be waking something up, showing something to you, reflecting and mirroring something that is active within you that you didn't realize. Maybe it's showing you a pattern that's no longer healthy, or some version of you that you created that you no longer need and that's actually holding you back now. I recently had a situation where I realized that I had started to shrink myself, and it wasn't in an obvious way. I had stopped sharing my ideas and my thoughts and my beliefs with people because I assume they won't understand. They won't get it. So instead of me even putting myself out there, I would just not say anything. And by not saying anything, I was robbing people of the opportunity to actually support me, to actually hear my perspective, to actually help me if they want it. You know what I mean? All because some version of me didn't feel safe enough to feel seen and heard. And so I started protecting myself by not sharing. But now I don't need that protection anymore, right? Like, I'm not afraid of people not understanding me. My nervous system can handle being misunderstood now. But she couldn't always. But it's only through my life experiences that got me here, right? To allow myself to be this confident, this grounded in who I am. And so those protective energies and identities that I created, I don't need them anymore. And maybe there's some version of you that you still allow to be active that you no longer need, and that is actually hindering your what else you want to experience now or what you're building now. So that came up, so I feel like it needs to go. But with all that being said, this is a reminder that everything is purposeful. Everything is purposeful. And I just wanted to remind you of that. Maybe you can consider that this experience you're having in this moment and every experience to follow has purpose. It's all purposeful. It's all part of the bigger picture. Okay? So, I love you all. This is Booked by Source, my speaker series, and I am your speaker, Charlie. Have your best day on purpose.